See it a little bit by this whack job. You know, he said, we're weird. That JD and I are weird. I think we're extremely normal people. Like you, exactly like... He's weird.
There are 4 clear reasons why Trump is going to lose in November. Let's get into them. Starting with the first one. He's weird. You've heard it a lot recently. Trump and JD Vance are weird. But Trump, who is known to be the king of insults, doesn't have a response. He has no comeback.
Did you ever see him go on the stage and go like crazy? It's like, between his movement and her laugh, there's a lot of craziness. I'd say a step further than weird. Weird is a nice word by comparison.
From the childless cat lady comments to the very restrictive abortion stances from Trump and Vance to whatever this is from Trump's supporters, there is a general sense of weirdness about their campaign and their policies. It's off-putting to the average voter. So while they put Vance on the ticket to double down with the base, he's really alienating for middle-of-the-road voters. Swing voters are off-put by the very extreme stances from JD Vance and Donald Trump. So they're going to push away the voters they really need to win over if they have a chance at success in November. And they're not doing that. Number 2, and this is an offshoot of number 1, he's infatuated with Kamala Harris.
But she said one thing that got me. She said Kamala has one big advantage. She's a very beautiful woman. She's a beautiful woman. So I decided to go back and reread the clause. I'm not saying he's, but I say that I am much better looking than her. I think I'm much better. I'm a better looking person than Kamala.
Here he is complimenting her looks.
Actually, she looked very much like our great first lady, Melania. She didn't look like Camilla, that's right, but of course she's a beautiful woman, so we'll leave it at that, right?
And then, of course, during the Elon Musk interview, he made a very weird comment where he compared Harris and his wife Melania, saying they looked alike, and he couldn't tell the difference. Harris being added to the ticket really threw Trump a curveball, and he doesn't know how to swing. Up until Harris took over, Trump was running his campaign on autopilot. He was just hitting Biden on his age and incompetence. Now you have somebody who can complete a sentence and looks like a capable leader, and he doesn't know what to do. And you're seeing that play out here. Number 3, Harris made some interesting moves when she took over. Instead of listening to the people who were running Biden's failing campaign, she charted her own course. Advisors were telling her to lay off the weird comments, which would have been a bad move because that was one of the earliest galvanizing comments that people latched onto. It became a defining narrative for the Trump and Vance campaign. So much so that Tim Walz has made it one of his taglines. Now, people across the country see Trump and Vance and their policies as weird. That is effective branding for your opponent. Why would you dissuade your candidate from doing that? It's working. So ignoring them was a huge advantage for Harris. She trusted her gut, and it seems to be working out. And you can see that in the polling. She has reversed some of Biden's deficits in key swing states. Those deficits, of course, were why he was prompted to drop out, and now she has gained that ground and taken the lead. Number 4, Trump's campaign doesn't have the juice.
Years passed when people heard from a candidate maybe once. Today, they often hear elements of the stump speech dozens of times, and it frankly gets boring. That's why long speeches and hour-long rallies don't win elections. What makes a campaign exciting is when a candidate says or does something unexpected. That's the opportunity for Mr. Trump now.
His base is growing exhausted. They've seen him for 3 cycles now. There's nothing new coming out of him. He's running tired old bits from 3 cycles ago. He's talking about TiVo again. That was outdated when he tried it in 2016. He's doing it in 2024. We have YouTube TV now. We have the future. It is here now. But jokes aside, he's not energizing his base.
Whatever you want to say about Trump, he really has. He's been entertaining in a kind of demented way. And as I watched his presser at Bedminster on Thursday, I thought, what a bore. What a bore this man has become.
Well, and part of his appeal all along, or part of his political power, has been that he understands the medium of television very well. And you saw flickers of that, right? He had all of the products there lined up at that Bedminster press conference. Like, he understands entertainment, he understands television, but he can't control himself.
There's nothing new. There's nothing invigorating. JD Vance, again, is weird, but he's also stale. He's just a low-rent Trump wannabe. People are leaving Trump's rallies early because he's boring. It's the ramblings of a madman for 90 minutes. Who wants to sit through that after waiting for hours before he even takes the stage? And while you can read into the polling, you see that middle-of-the-road Americans, centrist voters or swing voters, are fed up with him.
We know Donald Trump. We know that every time he opens his mouth, there's nothing but lies, insults, and vulgarity. And people are tired of it. The American people don't want this anymore. They don't want a president who basically divides us. They don't want a president who calls us names, who cannot even pronounce the name of the vice president of the United States.
What they don't want.
Kamala Harris.
Okay.
They know what a Trump presidency looks like. They know what happens if he loses. You look at January 6th, and while sure, a lot of his base likes it, most Americans don't approve of it. They like our system. They don't want a system where somebody is a sore loser and tries to overthrow the government. The average person isn't in support of that. So on top of him just being boring because he's old and frail and losing his mind, the guy is a lunatic. He's anti-democratic and he poses a major threat to our system. So all of those factors together results in a decaying campaign that's losing energy. He doesn't even want to campaign himself. Look at the campaign trail. Harris and Walz are campaigning all over the country while Trump sends JD Vance out for photo ops. Trump is busy doing press conferences at his golf clubs. He'd rather stay home and play golf than go out and campaign. He doesn't even want to do this. His heart isn't in it. And all of those things together is going to result in Trump losing and hopefully being eliminated from any future campaign. Donald Trump keeps forgetting who he's running against, and it is driving his advisors crazy.
Republicans are calling out a 2014 dinner that Hunter Biden and his family attended with a Russian oligarch, and they said that after that dinner, that oligarch wired $3.5 million to Hunter Biden's firm very quickly. It was a very quick wiring. I'm sure he worked very hard for the money. Several witnesses testified that Hunter Biden invoked his father in business dealings with Romanian, Chinese, Kazakhstani, and Ukrainian companies, in addition to other companies and people.
It's clear that Trump's fixation on Biden is more than just a simple mistake. It's a fundamental misunderstanding of the current political landscape. And this kind of behavior isn't just embarrassing, it's potentially damaging for his campaign because he's ignoring his actual competitor, Kamala Harris.
So disappointing. Can you imagine he's on vacation in California? They basically take away his nomination. Nobody's ever seen anything like that before. So he leaves and goes on vacation. He got 14. In all fairness to him, I'm no fan of Sleepy Joe, believe me. But he got 14 million votes. She got no votes, and they took it away. And, they did the same thing. We signed up RFK, who's great. He's a good guy. Got so many things. But they wouldn't let him compete. They wouldn't let him. If he competed as a Democrat, he would have won. I think he would have won the nomination over. Then I would have had to run against him. I'd rather run against these people. But, it's just one of those things. But
Trump just can't seem to grasp that he's not running against Joe Biden anymore. He continues to waste time at his rallies attacking Joe Biden and his son Hunter while ignoring Kamala Harris, and she's gaining momentum in the polls.
No, they really were nasty. And then they say to me, sir, please stick to policy. Don't stick to personality. You should be nice to people, sir. You have to be nice. I call them up. My geniuses, they get paid a fortune. Actually, not that much. But I call up my people. I say, they're knocking the hell out of me, and you say I shouldn't get personal. I have to get personal, don't I? I have to get personal. I have to get personal. They get personal. But I'm going to do my best. So they're allowed to get personal with me, but I'm not allowed to get personal to them.
Trump's own advisors are begging him to stay on message, but he's too distracted. He's worried about Biden. He is floating conspiracy theories about the 2020 election, even still, and he just can't manage it. He's too distracted. And as Trump fixates on the past, the Republican Party is worried that they put all of their eggs in one basket. They're finding themselves in a precarious position as a result, with the entire party now for the third presidential cycle in a row united behind Trump. They're seeing their party shift further and further into extremism, and that's alienating for middle-of-the-road voters. It's increasingly difficult for the GOP to campaign to moderates as a result, and conservative commentator Ana Navarro laid this out on CNN recently.
So for me, when Donald Trump became the nominee, when Donald Trump, it was clear he was going to win, that was it for me. I didn't need to see him for 4 years. I saw him come down an escalator, and I knew exactly who he was. I remembered Maya Angelou's words, when they show you who they are, believe them the first time. Yeah. And I did. And so, you know, this is a guy who went against the disabled, who went against immigrants, who went against Mexicans, who went against women. We heard him on tape boast about sexual assault. How was that not the end of Donald Trump with a party that claims to be about family values? We saw him mock a disabled person. I have a disabled brother. How was that not the end of Donald Trump with the Republican Party, supposedly about Christian values?
And speaking of political contradictions, it's not just Trump and the Republican Party as a whole. Even former Democrats like Tulsi Gabbard have embraced fringe right-wing policies. Gabbard is now all in on Trump. She endorsed him this week, and she can't seem to recognize the contradiction in her own statements. Take this clip, for example. She is now a frequent guest on Fox News, and she's hitting Kamala Harris. She says Harris is a typical politician who says one thing and does another. And of course, that's ironic coming from someone who abandoned their party to embrace the right.
She is a typical politician who will say one thing and do another.
And also, for someone who just endorsed Donald Trump, I mean, this guy is the king of contradictions. He's a total hypocrite. He is a serial liar. And that's something that Tulsi Gabbard routinely talked about when she was running for president as a Democrat. So it's a bit rich coming from someone like her, but the problem isn't just her. This is throughout the Republican Party now. It has become overrun by adherents to the Magga movement, the cult of personality around Trump. You have to recognize there are strengths to the Magga movement. People can be very energized by it. You see decent-sized rallies for Trump. People will donate, and there's a lot of energy that could lead to votes. But the thing is, when they're doing get out the vote efforts, they're going to encounter moderates, and those moderates are going to be off-put by Trump's far-right stances, and especially J.D. Vance's. When you're talking about banning abortion nationwide, when you're talking about banning IVF, those are not policies that moderates embrace. But that is who the right wing has become. But even more so, the MAGA movement is a serious weakness for the right, because this extremism defines not just Trump, but the entire party down the ballot. You have to cozy up to him, you have to publicly support him, or else he'll support somebody to challenge you, to try to primary you. And even the moderate Republicans, who won in districts that Biden also won in 2020, have embraced Trump. They had to fully sell out. There is no moderate Republican anymore. So they are fully bought in, and if he loses, which, God, I hope so, that could mean the end not just for him, but that entire movement overall. That could leave lasting damage to the Republican Party. So it's not just about this election. The future of the Republican Party hinges on Trump's performance in 2024, because for the next few cycles, you could see lasting negative effects because they are all bought in on the cult of Trump. God, I love it.